Here with your Antifa News Briefa for September 11th, 2021. This is the conspiracy edition. First, I did want to say blessings to all the spirits of everyone lost in the attack on September 11th, 2001, 20 years ago, and all the spirits of everyone lost in the aftermath from those attacks, the wars, and everything else that came from it. And condolences to all the families and everyone who suffered from these things as well. I did want to talk about the conspiracies around September 11th. I'm going to disprove most of them and talk about some stuff. So if you're watching this, it's probably gone viral because I do have a shadow ban channel, so most people can't see it. But I just ask, please watch my other stuff. This is not my best work. This is addressing a really bad thing, and it's hard to do. So bear with me, and thank you for watching and commenting and sharing. The reason I'm doing this is they did an expose on, or an interview with a guy who was responsible for promoting some of these conspiracy theories. And let me go ahead and dispense with the conspiracy theories first, or at least most of them. The idea that 9/11 was an inside job is actually true in just many ways. I'll come right back to that. But that's where they get their fuel from. The jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams crowd. Alex Jones and Joe Rogan are people who have gotten their notoriety and platforms partly from writing this tragedy, clout chasing Osama bin Laden. And you know that they're wrong. You know that Alex Jones is wrong by everything else he did. You know that the conspiracy, the truther community of conspiracy theorists around 9/11 are wrong, because that went on to the birther conspiracy, to the Sandy Hook conspiracy, to protect guns, birther conspiracy to be racist about Obama, Sandy Hook conspiracy to protect guns, anti-vax mass conspiracy to spread Trump virus genocide, critical race theory, anti-black people just be racist again. That's all run by the KKK, by a terrorist collective, and now the KGB as well runs it. It's all completely manipulated and orchestrated. Okay, now these individuals might not be. They might have been, spoon-fed this information, or because they arose, because they were willing to espouse this belief, they then were connected to and supported by this network. So that's how you know they're wrong. That's one way to know they're wrong. You know them by their fruits, and they've led to the people who are trying to kill us with Trump virus. That seems unrelated. It's 20 years later, but there's a direct correlation through this conspiracy community. Now, as I said in my other video, just because Joe Rogan's wrong doesn't mean the government's right. Just because Alex Jones is wrong, and you know that's true. You know Alex Jones is wrong. Just because he's wrong doesn't mean the government's right. They might have a kernel of truth in it. So, for instance, if 9/11 was an inside job, meaning if someone in the American government had something to do with it, then being able to expose that gives you a lot of power. And a lot of people want to hear that because maybe everybody can sense it's true, but no one's admitting it. So, or they haven't caught anybody, prosecuted anybody for it, whatever. So you have some power. But if you then take that power and that focus and you say, and these were the people who did it, instead of the people who actually did it, then you're helping the people who actually did it get away with it. And you're part of the inside job. So we'll come back to that. Let's get to the official version. And now, even the official version of events, 9/11 is an inside job. Sad to say, and it's all tragic all around. But the official version, Osama bin Laden trained terrorists to fly planes into the World Trade Center, Pentagon, and possibly somewhere else. I guess the White House or someplace, the Capitol was the other target. Did that and did it and pulled it off and did the worst terrorist act in American history. And that's very likely exactly what happened. So how is that an inside job? Because they trained Osama bin Laden, because they created Osama bin Laden, because like Kilo Rap, who made me, who paid me, who put me on the street, is strictly business, motherfuckers. You know what I mean. He's there for that reason. They made a terrorist. Reagan made the terrorist. Look all that up. I don't want to have to explain it all here, but created Osama bin Laden to fight against the USSR in Afghanistan, to keep USSR bogged down in Afghanistan for 10 years, which the USSR just ran the Taliban to keep America bogged down in Afghanistan for 20 years. Anyway, you can see how in Osama bin Laden's role in that, after 10 years of fighting Russia and then realizing, wait, you never cared about us. All this stuff you sold us was lies. You could say he just quit his job in a big way. Like came back and blew the place up. But that's America's fault. If you accept that version of events because you know that Osama bin Laden was an American operative before that, a way of that writing that headline is, ex-employee comes back and blows the place up. They trained him, they made him, they funded him, they gave him the ideology is the worst part. That's what it comes down to ultimately. I was going to save this for later, but I don't want to forget. Muslims did not attack the World Trade Center no matter what happened because Osama bin Laden's clan are not Muslims. They're this perverted jihadist version. Jihad is not a bad thing. Jihad means spiritual struggle within oneself. It doesn't mean violence and terrorism, but they reinterpreted it to mean violence and terrorism. America promoted that ideology to foist upon them, to corrupt Islam. So they're not Islam. They're apostate or whatever you call it. They're traitors to Islam. ISIS and all that stuff, traitors to Islam. But America started that. They did that in order to fight the Russians or whatever, or in order to create an evil boogeyman. And if you think about it, I feel like the only person who's mentioning the additional victims to the 9/11 attacks, we mentioned the victims of the wars. Not enough, but we do mention the victims of the American wars in Iraq and Afghanistan are also, victims, the aftermath of the 9/11 attack. We don't mention as much in America. As far as I know, I'm the only person who mentioned it. I just mentioned it yesterday. In America, we've had this police state, police terrorizing minority populations for decades. And then when you have a police state intensified, a surveillance state intensified by the events of 9/11, when everybody talks about how their surveillance intensified, but when you have that, it makes that targeting more focused and more severe and more omnipresent. So that increased the racism in America, and obviously it increased this racism in America against Islam and against Muslim people because making everybody think that people are terrorists. When again, the root of the terrorism still falls in America. By the very most official version of events, America trained Osama bin Laden. America made Osama bin Laden. America put that ideology out there. And of course, not all Americans, not you and I, certain ones. And if you misdirect where the blame goes, you can use this huge piece of information to demonize other people. So, we didn't do that. We as American people aren't all hiding our secret that we know we did this to ourselves in order to fight the world. A group of people in America may be hiding such a secret are to the extent that they're covering up their tracks. There's one real conspiracy in the world. It's really obvious. And all the other little conspiracies are by that same conspiratorial group to distract people. This one conspiracy is oil and weapons, like the oil companies. You can see their influence through Putin, because Putin's gas pro, all that stuff. And the weapons manufacturers trying to promote war. They want to keep this stuff going. And then they're infused into other fields, other industries, including media and social media. Facebook is all up in there. We've got to redo it all. And we can. But they are trying to perpetuate themselves. So the ones within America who orchestrated this, because you can say, okay, well, at some point Osama bin Laden's gone rogue. They're not directing him to do this. They're only responsible for having created him. That's the least inside job, but still inside job version of events, the official version of events. But there's another version, and again, when I saw these documentaries or heard on the radio about these documentaries, I haven't seen but one documentary. But when I heard on the radio about these documentaries, they're talking about the stuff that Alex Jones and other people, this loose change one that they were mostly focusing on because they were talking to the guy who made it, and how it went viral and all this stuff, and how they were all poorly produced. Well, I saw one that didn't seem that poorly produced, and it was on a TV access channel. I'm afraid I don't remember what it's called because it was 10 years ago. But it suggested that George W. Bush's uncle had a contract to get the asbestos out of the World Trade Center, and so he had floors blocked off for his use and possibly set explosives throughout the whole thing on times when only his company was working in there in the middle of the night, and controlled demolition of the buildings. Don't know how true that is. Don't know how much of that is true or disproved, proved. Leave comments, let me know. But that suggests, of course, that because we all saw planes, we all know the plane part happened. So in conjunction with Osama bin Laden making this attack, they pre-planned it and so why? Well, one reason why is, of course, September 11th was the beginning of the war on terror, and this is post USSR. You don't have the excuse of the huge superpower that you've been at war with, so you have to make some excuse to continue war. That's the most cynical version, but possible, because we've done worse. America's got a track record for being like that. And as it turns out, September 10th, the news came out that Gore actually won the recount in Florida. So we had kind of a constitutional crisis that the president we had wasn't the president we voted for. And the next day, this thing happens that took everybody's mind off that. And this was in the day, I always remember September 10th being like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till tomorrow morning for the news to come out that Gore's really our president, not Bush. And we saw what happened instead and took everybody's mind off of that. Again, extremely cynical, but one reason I thought of it that way. Don't know the truth of that, so please leave ideas in comments. But regardless, whether they coordinated with Osama bin Laden, which makes them super, super evil, or had just been the super, super evil people that put Osama bin Laden there in the first place, it does come back on us to admit our mistakes and wrong and repent and try to acknowledge and overcome the damage that we've done in this world. And the only way to do that is, as the most warlike country ever, the USA has to lead the path to peace. So let's do it. Let's make peace in this world as aggressively and expensively as we have spent on making war. And we can do it. We can set a standard that all other countries follow, especially if we just team up with China. We can make this standard that all countries follow and make peace on earth and no more war. So thanks for watching. Please share.